Greetings, beloved. Welcome today to this evening Togetherness Media. We hope you had a wonderful, wonderful holiday weekend. Love to you and yours, love to you and your family. We're so excited to have you back. 2020 is almost over. You know, today we have a special treat for you. Christmas is over, but we have the gifts that keeps on giving. So we have my man, the so insightful, so intelligent, great taste in sports teams, always debonair. His soul shines like his skull. I lovingly call him PK, but to you he's Doctor Payam Kade. What's up, Doc? How you doing today?
Hi Anthony, how are you? It's good to see you tonight.
Good.
We
You
need
too.
more
How was
winning
your
with those.
holiday?
We definitely need more winning with those teams though, with our
Yes, yeah.
beloved Lakers.
Yeah, they looked
Far
great the
more.
past couple of days. Oh my
Oh, they
God.
they did amazing, amazing. Yeah, and they have great talent. I love it. I enjoy
Yes,
watching
yes,
it. I
yes.
think of you when I'm watching the games, and I enjoy myself. It's really nice to see them
Yes,
score like
yes.
that. They score high scores. My holiday is
Yes,
going
yes.
great. I'm very surprised to see so much rain these days around LA. But that's good.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing from the sky. So I'm enjoying it. How's yours? It's
Oh
going
man, it was
good
good.
so
It was
far.
yeah. It was a relaxing holiday weekend. Took it easy. Did a lot of cooking this weekend, which was good. Like it always feels good to get some good cooking in. It's like especially when it's good for the soul, especially when you're feeding people. Make
Oh,
people feel good. Yeah, like that's my favorite part of
good.
cooking is watching other people eat my food.
Good for you. I'm terrible at cooking, so I'm glad no, I'm not cooking for no one. Nobody eats my cooking. You know what I do
Yeah.
is I just open DoorDash and I just ask people what do you want, and then I just click da 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 da, and then I say send, and then I tell them, okay, your food is gonna be ready at 7 p.m. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's
That's what I
hey,
do. It's
that
easy.
that 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 works too.
Ye-
I paid for one of the main ways I paid for UC Berkeley was catering. I catered my
Oh, really?
way.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So like yeah, I did a lot of catering, and I've been cooking my entire life. Everybody in my family cooks, like all the men, all the women. Like so, yeah, I grew up like making
See, yeah,
cooking a lot.
my father was a good cook, and honestly, my older brother is really a good cook too. So was my mom. I don't know what happened to to myself and my twin. We we really suck at it. So I don't know. But both of us have learned to use DoorDash. He's my brother's wife is a very good cook. So when I go there, of course, I eat her cooking. But when she comes here, I just order. I just asked her,
Hey,
"What do you want?" She says, that works." So it works. Thank God for the.
hey,
It's a blessing.
it works just as long as everybody ends up happy and fed, right?
Absolutely. And honestly, between you and me, that's how I mask that vulnerability side of me. That I know I'm not a good cook. I just say, I just order whatever you want. Just tell me what you like, and
Yeah.
makes
Hey,
it
it
easy for me.
works. All
It's
right,
good to see
today we're
you.
talking, you too, brother. So today we're going to be
Thank
talking
you.
about vulnerability. And vulnerability, just as an artist, like one of the always things I always say is vulnerability is one of our artist's greatest ability. Um,
Yes.
and like, and I just know that just being as an artist, my best work oftentimes comes when I come from a place of vulnerability, exposing my belly to the world through my music or through my writings, because it allows people who are going through things to see that other people go through the same thing as well. But I would love to hear your take on vulnerability as far in relationships and in life in general.
Okay, so in my opinion, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to make it very simple. Obviously,
Break it
when we
down.
talk, when we when we use the word vulnerability, oftentimes people immediately become defensive, right? Like
Yeah.
when they hear it, they're like, "Oh, I have to become vulnerable, or somebody's going to be vulnerable in front of me." It comes to how should I react to someone's vulnerability, or how would people respond if I become vulnerable? So oftentimes people step away from that. I always say that people who are courageous and they want to speak the truth from their heart, the courageous people are the ones who are more vulnerable. What does that mean? That means the people who, and research has shown, unfortunately, I can't come up with the name of the psychologist who did this wonderful study. She's actually, she has a PhD in social psychology. She did a 6-year study on people with vulnerability, and she found out that the more people are loved and have a sense of belongingness, the more vulnerable they became,
Yeah.
meaning they actually felt like I am good enough, I am loved enough by myself, and I'm loved enough by the people that are around me. I belong to people that care about me, have always belonged to people who cared about me and responded to my needs and listened to my voice. So I can be vulnerable and actually share truly what's in my heart. So
Yeah.
and I think unfortunately in some cases I see people not really speaking from their heart only because their fear is the listener going to be responsive to me or is going to be reactive to me? And
Yeah.
this is the two distinction. If you're responsive to someone, you actually care about them, you can understand them, you listen to understand what they're saying, you respond in such a way that they don't feel belittled, they don't
Yeah.
feel that they don't feel discouraged, they feel encouraged to share more and be courageous to actually go deep into their heart and say whatever it is that they want to share. And
Yeah.
they're less fearful, they feel less, they have less anxiety to share what they want because they think this is a safe space. I'm sharing with someone who is willing to openly accept me the way I am, not judge me, and not put a label
Yeah.
on me and say, "Oh, you're crazy, man." Not like that. Just accept me the way I am. So that makes a person more courageous to come out and share what they want. So relationship vulnerability is very difficult because it has to do with what your response is going to be rather than a reaction.
Yeah, I have two things that triggered for me that what you just spoke about. One is I deal a lot with animals, and you could tell how comfortable animals are when they roll over and expose their belly. That sense of that sense of vulnerability. Like I trust you enough
Yeah.
to I trust you enough to let you into all my little soft spots. And the second thing is I was having a conversation just last night, synchronistically, with a friend, and she was telling me that like a lot of people she can't really tell things to because they'll either one be judgmental, b just be dismissive and just completely try to shift the subject because of their uncomfort with the subject. Or
Hmm.
blame like, oh, that's just too much for me, like it's too heavy for me, I can't handle it. Every time they try to talk about something that's deep, like yeah, I can't handle all that, like I can't deal with that. Just like, it'll be okay. Don't worry about it. And they just shift. So they feel that they're not really heard. He'll feel that they're not really seen, or if people aren't really taking what's going on in their lives to heart. So they just get to the point where they shut off from trying to tell that person anything because they feel like that one, the person doesn't care enough, or two, that even if they do tell the person that like that they just absolutely don't really want to hear it or can't handle it, or that
Yeah.
other person just can't handle it emotionally. So like it's like they feel
Absolutely.
like it's not a safe space to share.
You know, you said something really nice. You said about a dog that would just roll over and expose his belly or her belly and says, "Okay, love me, rub me, do whatever you want, and I'm going to enjoy and I'm going to receive." Right? I
Yes.
have the capacity to receive your love, and that's important
Hmm.
also.
Yeah.
There is the other. I always say the other side of vulnerability is shame and fear.
Yes.
So I'm gonna explain that briefly. Shame and fear is when I feel I am not good enough. I have never
Hmm.
been good enough. I have to live up to someone's standard. I have to live up to society's belief system. I have to do what is their choice and what is their voice rather than what is my voice and what is my choice. Then,
Mm.
when I have to live with your standard, I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm just going to be a closed person who's just going to listen to what you have to say. And then I will try to make you happy. So I'm going to do what you ask me to do. And then I'm going to be the unhappy person. I'm going to be totally vulnerable inside, but I won't show it and I won't expose it to the outside world. So I say the other side of the coin is that, and that's because we have conscious, animals do not, right? And of course, when I say conscious, meaning that we can do deductive and inductive reasoning, animals cannot do. So when an animal exposes his belly, they're not doing inductive and deductive reasoning to see, okay, so what's going to be cause and effect of this? What's going to happen next? And what if I don't receive that love? They don't think like that, but we do.
I
So
don't
when
know.
we expose our
I've known some pretty calculating, conniving
oh
animals.
yeah, I know. I have had
I
all
know
my life too.
I know some animals that are pretty calculating.
I could not agree with you more. But in general, generally speaking, animals are a little bit more different than the way we are, right? They
Simple.
they
Yeah, a
go
lot more
based on
simple.
they go based on more of need and fear response, right? So if you
Mm,
approach an animal, depending on their size and how much fear they have from you, they may step away from you. And they may not
yeah.
even know you. They just step away. And then you will also see based on their needs, they may get close to you so they can take care of their needs. Like if you have a meat in your hand and you're just dangling it over their head, they may jump and grab it, right? But
That
human
works with some of
beings
my
may
friends
be,
too.
believe me, it works with me. If there is a steak somewhere and somebody invites me, I'm like, I'm game, I'm coming. Uh, no, but yeah, so the fear of not responding or not sharing your love and your
Hmm.
pain and your success and your shortcomings oftentimes comes with the fact that you don't know what you're going to hear from the other side. Is there going to be a pushback? Am I really going to be understood? Or am I just going to be heard so someone can then respond to it? React to it rather than respond to it. Because when we
Can I have a
respond, it's a
question?
little bit different. We feel alive when we are vulnerable. And
Yeah.
I think the fear, right? Don't you think that? I mean, I
Yes,
honestly think that sometimes when I'm
I
vulnerable,
agree.
I'm actually being alive.
That's why so many people love thrill seeking because it puts them in a place of vulnerability where they have to like trust. Like some people love skydiving because you're in a sense of vulnerability. You're like
Hmm.
at the mercy of your parachute and at the timing. I have a
Yeah. And then
question.
you spoke.
Um,
Hmm.
so, so the other side of vulnerability is like one side is opening up to people. I realize that another side of vulnerability that a lot of people have problems with is something you actually do for a living is listening to people and dealing with people who are vulnerable and
Yeah.
receiving that. So how like do you have any advice for people as far as the vulnerability side of interacting and receiving and dealing with somebody's vulnerability?
Yeah. I before I say that, I'm going to tell you something. That I have a person who is a musician. He's
Hmm.
actually a very pretty well-known pianist who happened to know another friend of mine. Didn't never knew me, and he introduced him to come and see me because he told me that throughout his life he has always been vulnerable and open and shared his heart, but the moment he would share too much, sometimes people would not take him as genuine as he wanted to
Hmm.
be. And that was just part of the conversation I had with him. And I think part of the problem is because the people that he has associated with or he has opened his heart to did not set the context for a level of understanding he was seeking. What do I mean by that? If when you said this is my job and I do my job the way I do it, is because every time somebody comes to sit in front of me to talk to me, I try to create a space of trust. I
Yes.
try to create a context of empathy for them so I can really feel them rather than judge
Yeah.
them. It's
Yes.
easy to
Exactly.
quickly jump, right? It's easy for us to quickly jump to judgment. Oh, he's just BSing again, or why is he being so weak? Instead of thinking that way and put my mindset into that kind of a context, I put my mindset into a area of communication and create a little bit more flexibility. And then I make sure that I do less judging. It's like somebody told me one time, I've seen you 3 times. So what's your diagnosis? Am I crazy? And I said, are you looking for somebody to tell you that you're crazy? Or are you here to communicate so you can open some doors for yourself? Well, I definitely want to make sure that I open some doors. I said, then have the courage to speak courageously and share from your heart and know that I'm not here to judge you. And when there is a time, and if I see that there is actually a diagnosis for you, I'll make sure I share it, if there is one. But do not expect to come and sit here and ask me that I'm just going to write a note and say, oh, okay, so this is what your diagnosis is. So I would say if you're asking me what I would ask people to do, put yourself in someone else's shoes is the number one thing to do. Tell yourself, if somebody's sitting on the other side and sharing with me, how would I respond if I was sitting in their shoes? Would I try to create a context of trust and less judgment and more empathy and more communication, meaning true conversation with the other person, and be a little bit more flexible rather than judgmental? If I
Hmm.
sit on the other side, would that be a context that would create more sharing for me? I think it
Mm.
would, because then
Okay.
I'm thinking, oh, okay, if I sit with Anthony, we just talk to each other. He's not going to sit and judge me. He's going to let me be myself, and I can say,
Yeah.
I have this issue and that issue, or I have this success and that success. He's not going to judge and say, oh, he's trying to show me that he's successful, or if I
Yeah.
show my weaknesses, you're not going to quickly come to judgment and say, oh, what a weak guy. I mean, he could have
Hmm.
definitely seen this that way, or he could have seen this way, right? So we apply our own mindset instead of our own heart set. I would
Do you
say put
believe?
more heart into it and less mind,
From my heart, yes. Do you
right?
feel?
Because then the
Do you
person would
feel?
feel so warm and comfortable to share.
Do you feel that most people's hesitancy to be vulnerable um, comes from, like as we said, like fear of judgment, and then after that, a fear of loss because of the judgment?
Absolutely. Because majority of the time, people want to, like I said earlier, there is a great sense of belongingness in everybody. They want to belong to a certain group or to family members or to the society, right?
Mm.
Oftentimes, when a person is not a person who has a is not very famous, let's put it that way, right? So a very famous person can be a certain way and still have lots of followers and still be
Yeah.
invited into a group, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Cher tomorrow comes out and says, I believe in Satan. She's still gonna have millions of followers, believe it or not, right?
Hmm.
Because she's so famous, they don't even listen to what she has to say. The fame overmasks and takes over everything else that
Uh,
they may hear. So she still has that belongingness probably to 70 million or 2 billion people across the world because she's so famous. Or Beyonce comes and says, I'm crazy. People are still going to love her because they love her, right? So it
got me
won't
feeling
make
so
it,
crazy right now.
but for ordinary people like me, that
Yeah.
has the tendency to have has a sense of belongingness to other people, we're always afraid of how we're going to be judged and whether we're going to be asked to leave the group or we're going to be
Yeah.
excluded from the group.
You know
So
one thing.
what we do is there is that fear of, should I share enough? Did I share enough? Should I say more? Should I just zip my mouth and not share anymore? So the context has to be there for it to be able to be vulnerable and share. It needs courage, I think. I think
Yeah.
somebody told
That.
me one time courage is a Latin word for sharing from the heart. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what I heard.
Yeah. It's interesting you're talking about that. I was thinking about in the '80s the way that Prince used to dress, and if like if and like the way it's like some of the stuff he wore. If if he wasn't a rock star, if he was just a regular person running around dressed
Hmm.
like that, people would have been like, "What is up with this dude?" but because
Right.
of who he was. But also, it's funny because I'll just say this, like even myself, um, like like because of my comfort with being vulnerable, I take all kinds of crazy fashion risks all the time,
Uh-huh.
completely outlandish things that that because I'm comfortable wearing them and confident in myself to wear them, I'm able to pull them off. Um,
Right. But
like
remember
I did a
also,
show. I did a show with a with a lace pink church lady hat with a big lace flower, pink flower on the side.
I I saw one of your shows and it was I loved it, but it was so different, right? But can you
Yeah,
imagine? So that's why I say the context has to be there, and then people who are looking at it, they have to actually see you play this out within the context, right?
yeah,
So if you were the same thing and you want to come and teach a class that I teach in USC, people are going to look at you in the Zoom and say, "What's up with that dude?" They may
yeah,
love it, but they may say, "Oh, okay, so he could be a weirdo," because the context is set for
yeah.
you to sit like this with a shirt and whatever, right? Not with that kind of an outfit. So the context is the context is not asking for it. But I think in a setting where we want to be in a relationship with others, the context should be set for
Hmm.
any person to be themselves and share what they are and who they are. I'm not saying that they should share something totally outrageous and crazy, like I'm a masochist and I'm just gonna be the way I am, and you should accept it. If
Yeah.
if that's not what you want, then you just say, "Great, I can't be in a relationship with you," or "I don't
Hmm.
think this is going to work for me." That's okay. You have that you within that space. You can have that clear communication. But I would say before people rush to judgment and quickly judge someone, hold back a little bit. Take two steps back. Unfortunately, within relationships, oftentimes what happens and has always been like that, but most recently we have lost tolerance. It
Yes.
looks like we say we should be tolerant to everybody, but I really don't see it. To be very
Yeah.
honest with
Yeah.
you, I don't see it. We should become more tolerant, take a step back, observe that person, and let it sink in a little bit before quickly pass a judgment. Let it go through your soul and through your mind. Understand them, understand where they're coming from. Maybe check in a little bit a couple of times to see, is that what you
Hmm.
were trying to say to me? Don't assume it. Ask. And I think that's one of the
Yes.
most important things that is missing. And I think a lot of the wars in social media is because of that. You
Yeah.
open your
And I think
social
it.
media, somebody writes something, and then you just quickly come to judgment. You don't check in. Is this what you mean? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Stop and just give a little time.
And I think it goes even past tolerating each other's differences and vulnerability. It's we need to get to the point where we embrace them, and
Hmm.
not just tolerate what goes on. Like I embrace like we need to embrace each other's uniqueness. We need to embrace each other's vulnerability. I always say the weird change the world. And it's interesting because there's how close the word weird and wired are. And then
Hmm.
but we're about to close out our section. And I've loved having conversations with you all the time. Would you love to
Thank
give
you.
us any last advice? Any last advice to our people around the world?
My last advice, I think this may be the last show for the before the end of the year between you and me. Right? I think it's going to be. I'm going to do another segment in Farsi as I was told. But here's my last thing. If you really want to bridge that gap between not understanding someone and really embracing them, make sure you look into what actually can bring you together.
Yes.
What can makes us alike, what makes us close to each other, what makes us human being is what is going to bring us together. What you wish for, I am sure if you come up with 30 wishes that you have, 20 of them are going to be my wishes as well, because we're
Yeah.
human beings. So instead of looking at what makes us different, I always look at what makes Anthony and me the same. I hold on
Exactly.
to that, and that makes It's right, and then and that makes me connect with you so easily, right?
Yes.
I think people should do that. We joke around and we say, oh, our sports team and stuff like that. But can you imagine if we come up with 20 different more things that actually brings us together about how
Yeah.
we feel about the society and about our culture and about all of that stuff? And then we could become closer friends and become better people and we embrace each other that way, each other's heart, rather than our mindset that goes everywhere. And that's what my advice to people is for the new year that is coming. Try to be
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more of that, less judgmental. Please don't assume. Clarify, clarify, clarify. Communication, clarification is extremely important, in my opinion, to allow someone to become more vulnerable and for you to be a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
That's
We
what I
both
would say.
share a we both share extreme empathy. We both share compassion, and we both share a
Hmm.
love for humanity. Doc, I love you so
Absolutely.
much, man.
Love you too, my friend.
I'm wishing you the happiest of New Year's. May you come into it
Thank you.
beautifully, and may it be filled with so much love, joy, abundance, and inspiration for you and yours. I love you
Thank you.
deeply,
I
and
wish
appreciate you.
same. I wish you a joyful new year and a wonderful, healthy new year for you and all the viewers. Everybody.
Thank you so
Love
much.
you.
Love you. That was my man, Dr. PK, Payam Kade. Follow him, follow him. Reach out to him if you need anything. Such an amazing man, such an amazing soul. This is Anthony Powers. We'll be back together in this media. See you in a few.